Welcome to today's a quick look at. And today the topic is Manchester United, specifically looking at of course, Manchester United's performance post Alex Ferguson since for almost a decade at this point uh, is quite a complex topic. And so certainly this video won't cover all of that, but it will highlight uh, certain moments that are like incredulously hilarious. And I think that will illuminate certainly, if not the technicalities of United's time in the wilderness, it will represent the thematic reality and the thematic feeling. And of course, I'm not a United fan. I don't I like seeing United play good football. I also like seeing United, admittedly, play bad football and get thrashed by Brighton. So certainly with that, moving on. And I think like the worst part about United's performances and reality is I think this comments sums it up pretty well. It's referencing Football Manager, the soccer football. Oh god, excuse me, football simulator, where like in the simulator, United, very strong performances, winning trophies, easily top four in the league. Whereas in reality, United are quite challenged. And I think this quote, in that, United, lots of talented players, incredible money, right? Like just incredible amounts of spending, right? Even compared to like, the quote unquote oil clubs, United, plenty of cash, and even for all the stuff about the Glazers, like United have spent, a strong academy, like decent players come through, incredible history. Again, Premier League, right? Like Aston Villa is signing a lot of Aston Villa, who are a mid-table club, signing like players from La Liga who are playing Champions League, who prefer to go to the Premier League to play mid-table football. Like, and of course, all those advantages and managing to somehow suck, and that. So again, this level of dysfunction. Like again, so you point to the Glazers, the Glazers are undoubtedly part of it. Before I get into that, it is tough to blame the coaches, the managers, the players, or just like the randomness of football, like because it's not unique to United. Like managers, like you've had 4 or 5 different managers in the almost a decade span, all of whom have gone on to do relatively well, right? And again, it's kind of like the quote, like, if everyone you meet is a jerk, then you are probably the jerk. Again, players, again, like, there's talented players on United's squad, and teams with less talented players have won things or beaten United, right? Like the Europa League final, like Villarreal versus United. Villarreal, like, gets a lot of disrespect. Don't want to add to that, but I think, you go mono, like, lining up starting 11s, like United will probably come on top, and a lot of good players have played for United, like, but some of them just don't work out. Like Depay is a decent player, Angel Di Maria, great player for PSG, and work out United. So again, there's like you can't blame players, you can't blame managers, well, at least in totality. You can maybe you can like pick out like blame Pogba a bit, and then the nature of a beautiful game, you can't blame that because United have had their own luck, like their comeback against PSG, like that's the nature of a beautiful game. That worked under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Like that works out because of the winning nature of football, And so all of those are all of like the lucky bounces United gets of like managing to sneak into Europa League without being sent to the Conference League just because Brighton, bailing them out. So it's so all of those things, like it's the dysfunction is just so much deeper. It's so much deeper than players and managers or nature of a beautiful game. Because for the nature of a beautiful game, it's just like law of big numbers. Over time, things revert to the mean. Even in something like football, you will revert to the mean over enough time. Tough to blame managers. You've rotated through plenty of managers. You've rotated through plenty of players. So there's something more deeply ingrained. Now, the one thing that of United, one accusation about United is that United is a commercial club. However, using Cap IQ and looking at, of course, United is a publicly traded company. and that arguably does contribute to that perception. But United is not alone in being certainly a public football club or being a commercial entity. Like Spurs, arguably under Joe Louis, quite the commercial entity, such as with the stadium. And then you have all these like publicly traded comps as well. So it's again, so it's the dysfunction is it's so like buried within the onion that it's not the superficial stuff like the manager or the player, or you can't just blame football. It's so much deeper than that. And of course, when trying to peel back an onion, it makes you cry. And so certainly, given the state, what has happened to this club, certainly for again, not a United fan, no real emotional attachment. Like I I like watching United play. Certainly, whether it's bad football, because admittedly that is fun to watch bad football. But then I like seeing Ronaldo score, and like that like, decent counterattacking stuff, which again isn't what you think a top club would do. But again, so the point is, like the dysfunctionality is so ingrained; it's at a deeper level. And so going deeper down into these points, like managers, like United have signed good managers, and the managers have gone on to do things. It's not like they signed duds. Like Jose Mourinho, like just won the Conference League. So Roma, David Moyes, right now West Ham, took them into European football. Ralph Ragnick, legend of the game or of coaching, and it was for Austria, not a random national team, right? So managers. And again, like, even like Ole, like there are moments where like if United did things differently, Ole could have had more, but it could have. So it's very tough. Again, is it possible that United have just like 5 consecutive times to point to the bad coach, and the coach is solely to blame? Again, like 5 times, like multiply like what? Say there's just say what 10% chance of it happening, 10 to the 5th power. That's a it's a small number. So I was conflicted by having this table finish from last season because it was a weird COVID season. But again, but no disrespect to Ole, probably gets a bit too much of a bad rep, and this is just a hilarious meme with a very funny Ole grab. But that did kind of but it does again like the fact that these memes are accepted and like things that can be laughed at is indicative of some of that dysfunctionality that is hidden beneath the surface. And so the inspiration for this project was this article by Jonathan Northcroft of the Sunday Times. That kind of just it points out it does like it covers 5 different managers, so it's not the most detailed, but there are like certain moments that like examples that are incredibly like damning for the nature of a club, and frankly are quite hilarious. Like, you would not think of that happening at a like things that you could see at your own like local office building happening at United. It's hilarious, and of course the article link will be in the description to read for yourself in full, because I'm just highlighting certain like snippets that I found hilarious. I won't be going. There's a lot of great detail. Starting with of course like United commercial club reputation, and it's the duality of like being simultaneously like spending a lot of money, right? Like United spend a lot. Again, and that's net, so it's even more spending than that. All right, so the simultaneous duality of being penny pinchers, of spending a lot, but yet still being like penny pinchers, and like right, David Moyes, right after Alex Ferguson, like United refused to buy out his contract while we started. Wanted to sign Fellaini, tried to get a better deal, but his buyout clause expires. Pay 27 instead. Like that, like but that is hilarious. Like It's just, it's like, don't you think like you have like a reminder of like when the bio clause expires, so to whatever what you're trying to do, like regardless of how you're trying to sign two players, like push comes to shove, you get the guy you want. Again, so and this is starting right after Alex Ferguson. So I do wonder how much of a personality Alex Ferguson is to have like beaten out these elements that are to have defeated these commercial elements. The next one, of course, the Champions League final just finished on 72 hours ago. And I guess who's played the entire match? Toni Kroos, in the midfield for Real Madrid. Madrid substituted Modric instead of Kroos. And Kroos would have joined, he was going to join United. Of course, they sack Moyes. And so that doesn't work out. And so, of course, that's unfair because, like, would Toni Kroos' performance at Real, you can't just copy and paste his performance at Madrid to his theoretical performance at United because, again, they're very different clubs. And objectively, his performance at United would be worse than at Madrid. But again, it's just like, again, and football's full of these like what if moments. But this is just like sacking your manager like 2 years when you gave him a 6-year contract, and then like having business ready to go, except you sack the manager. It's again, it's not, I can't indict them too much for this. Isn't the most indicative of like dysfunctionality, but it's more so it does show something, right? Like if you're sacking a manager in the first place, you either A, were impatient, B, you messed up with the original manager choosing him, or C, there are other factors at play. But again, for like a player like Kroos, it's there's a hurdle rate to your decisions then, right? Next, this is actually pretty damning. Of like Ed Woodward, the former United head honcho, literally saying or describing United as Disneyland, and then him using Klopp, and of course not ending up at United instead of rivals Liverpool. So it's like it's you wouldn't want to call it like a Freudian slip, but it is indicative of something, right? Like the fact that he would feel emboldened enough to say that Disneyland, like unprovoked mistake or way of saying that, what how do you view it? And of course, like a real football person like Klopp, and certainly again another indictment of like the commercial aspect of United. Next one, this is actually quite funny. Skipping along to Jose Mourinho, unable to use the gym without like supervision outside hours. Of course, just like if you're working at a company, right? Like you have to get things expensed. Like maybe United has like some Salesforce CRM software, and then again to the gym point, like no lifeguard. So one of your top signings can't get rehabilitation training. So again, it's like, can you understand why this stuff is happening? Sure, but again, it's for a club like United, it's a football club, and you've got a serial winner in Jose. So again, it's to the sense that like the Disneyland slip didn't necessarily expose. I think this behavior really does. Again, it's incredulous to think that a professional football club, the manager is not allowed to use the gym, or that there wouldn't be a lifeguard available. Like that's surreal. Next one, again, the commercial aspect, right? Zlatan, like a legend of the game, right? He just won Serie A, right? Playing with a knee injury, and then right, getting fined. But again, getting fined a pound or I think a pound, for drinking the fruit juice at the hotel. Like that's a bit surreal. That's like you would not, no one would think that of a professional football club for for those things to be happening. or then I guess the training ground also of like always having to show ID to get in uh, to the same guy. It's again indicative of kind of like a bureaucracy, like a processization. Right. It's kind of like the one critique of like the Soviet Union, where it's like over time it like fossilized kind of in that it became much more about bureaucracy and process instead of actual uh, doing things. And to the degree that that's a poor analogy for United. But again, to the commercial aspect that kind of detracts from the actual football, it certainly turns off football people, such as Klopp. Uh, again, indictment. So those were all like the snippets. Again, there were more in the article by Northcroft. Again, linked in the description. Uh, there is a paywall, so full disclosure about the paywall. But there should be like read one article. Uh, but but the tough thing is like there's no. So that's been like 8 years, almost a decade at this point, and it's very tough to think of how United can escape or what is going to change. Like uh, Ragnick not staying. It seems like because of like it wouldn't work out between him and Ten Hag. So maybe that makes sense. But again, there's no sign that reform has been done. Like sure, Ed Woodward's leaving, but I go, is Ed Woodward the guy who's doing this, or is it more so like the fact that United has been leveraged buyout and or is a corporate club? But perhaps the worst thing that makes it all kind of surreal is that United have not been significantly punished for this decline. And the decline is certainly relatively is quite significant compared to how Liverpool and Man City have progressed, or certainly the Premier League in general, with like West Ham, so like being contesting for the European spots, as well as with replacing kind of Leicester in that contention. Of course, United are still immensely popular. Just look at their social media accounts, or like anecdotally of how much discussion Man United get in certainly in English media, and so much attention to United. Uh, and again, of course, like the nature of like the beautiful game of how football is, and like the randomness that is involved, right? Like United again been getting bailed out of Europa League, out of Conference League because of Brighton stepping it up, and of course, and then being unable to take destiny into their own hands. So again, and maybe this is kind of why, perhaps a contributing factor. It's kind of like it's kind of like in like real world, just like zombie companies that like have enough cash to pay some interest, but don't have enough to actually like pay down the principal, and so they're kind of like highly levered, just waiting until interest rates go up to be put out of their operations. But you can't say that about United because United's not, of course, not they'll continue chugging along, but perhaps the stagnation at the team at the club can be explained by the fact that there is no wake up call. Because even if with all the massive defeats to Liverpool, right, like no risk of relegation, still popular, so there's no need to. And again, I think especially at this point, 8 years past, like I certainly like don't remember Sir Alex Ferguson like watching United at that point, but I don't think anybody at this point expects like a Sir Alex Ferguson dynasty aspect of like. I think people expect like top four at this point. Like no one's expecting United to be like Real Madrid. Nowhere close to Real Madrid. Like the, as we just remind him of again, like the dynasty of Real Madrid. Just that legendness. Again, incredibly far from Man City or Liverpool. And so like the expectation is like, no, we're not going to win title, but let's just qualify for top four. And it's that slide again that might contribute to the stagnation. But again, just looking at these Liverpool, of course these two were from this season, and of course 18. This when the cube Shaqiri got some lucky bounces. Again, it's all indicative of just of decline, certainly in performance, decline in club atmosphere, and then decline in performances. I think the strangest thing about United is how it has turned legends, and how it has drove legends of the game into, or great managers, or decent managers, great players, into underperformance or mediocrity. right? Like like guys like Roy Keane can't even get worked up to criticize players at a club like this, like beaten down by the poor performances. Again, Ferguson. Again, I like Zinedine Zidane is probably like if I consider like a managerial legend, just because of my age. But I can certainly see his trophy counts, and for him to be rendered to this is after Liverpool beat down, uh, probably the April match, maybe October. Right, but legend manager of the club, right, being sat in reaction from the fans. This is back in Everton under Ole, like a 4-0 beatdown by Everton, right? Even Mark Goldbridge, the legend of the commentary game, right, representing like the fans, and then like legend of the game like Ronaldo, like Ronaldo couldn't will players to play at their best or to will players to uh, be engaged in training or to adopt his mindset. When again, like legend of the game, like serial winner, right? Arguably one of top five, certainly in the top 10 of all time, right? On being unable to. So I think that in the sense like that a club like the inertia of the dysfunctionality just defeats all of and converts all of these legends or and feelings and desire to win to improve. It converts all that energy into entropy and like but it's like the club's dysfunctionality is like a black hole that just like sucks that passion and energy and just destroys it. And again, I can't fully identify what is the source of this dysfunctionality because you can't blame the managers, players, or just football because like over 8 years things revert to the mean, right? And so you revert back to the mean. So it's beyond that. And again, it can't even just blame the commercial aspect because uh, the other clubs are commercial, certainly in like the pure financial side and also like the aesthetic. So I don't want to just blame the Glazers because that's a bit of a cop out, but there is something about how the Glazers have run the club. I think it's the perhaps just as like some companies when the company is life cycle is gone and it's on that terminal decline, right? Like life cycle of a company is uh kind of like a hump, right? Like growth, maturity, decline. Maybe United's just on that path. And again, there's plenty of clubs in football that are in like decline phase, right? Like many clubs in the European or English like Championship or League One represented. But a club like United, maybe it's just in terminal decline. But then you'd expect to see some of the consequences of that, which we have not. So maybe we are, and maybe in 5 years we'll recognize the decline. But either way, it's very hard to see how United can snap out of it. Maybe Ten Hag will, but again, who knows if they'll give him enough time, right, to work it out. I would say third time's a charm, but this would be the sixth time, so a bit worn down at that point. Again, not a United fan, but certainly for these guys, I do hope that United can improve because ultimately a more competitive top top flight or better teams in general, right, are good for football. It's certainly fun to watch. Uh, so with that, I certainly do hope that United can improve, but I do know that these moments, this aesthetic, won't help the club recruit players uh, or improve performance. I I don't think that the Disneyland vibe helps the club. I don't think that again when it comes to players, there's like the article itself mentioned many more examples of like players like the United approach, but then like somehow messing up. So and so yeah, I hope that United, again, not a fan, hope that United can continue to be better. Uh, and again, the dysfunctionality is quite complex. It's so ingrained, and you can't just blame it on one superficial element. But just like all problems in life, it's when you can't blame the superficial elements in good faith, then you can blame it in bad faith. And so I think that is what we're seeing with United. It's only popular discourse, which again doesn't address the core problems and allows elements of the core problems to go away unnoticed. But hey, potentially this video would have helped someone provide some picture, or if not, provided a good chuckle at some of these stories. So thank you for listening. And as we go into the summer and into the next season with the World Cup break, maybe United will be show signs of improvement, but I'm sure right away in the next year or two there will be a follow-up video. But anyways, thank you for watching and continue to be safe.